Ward moved to the last rendezvous point. He told himself, like a survival instinct of a soldier who once fought on a death world, stay silent too long and you'd go mad, stop moving, and fear would suffocate you. A freezing wind swept across Heratos IV, carrying with it the scent of ash and the stench of burning metal. The artificial sun hung high above, but its light could not pierce the thick red dust smothering the sky. Here, in this very moment, Ethan Ward was no longer a commander, no longer a soldier. He was just a human being, alone, dragging his broken body of iron across the wreckage of a meaningless war. And yet, in this absolute darkness, amid ruin and despair, fate was about to throw a new question into his life, a challenge found in no tactical manual. He was about to face a choice between the reason of a warrior and the instinct of a human, between walking away and saving another life, a life that did not belong to the world of humankind, a dead planet. Yet it knew exactly how to mock those still clinging to life. Ethan Ward came to an abrupt halt. A faint flickering biosignal appeared on his HUD, the only trace of life left amidst this frozen sea of death. Up ahead, not far from where he stood, buried among the shattered remains of a flattened command station, a figure lay motionless. He stepped forward. Slowly, his hand tightening around his old plasma rifle, a reflex born from surviving too long on a death world. But when his eyes finally focused on that figure, something in his heart skipped a beat. It was a female warrior, Elyrian, a race of aliens once praised as the guardians of the starry skies, unbeaten warriors, beautiful and deadly, like the ancient civilization they hailed from. And yet now, she lay there, alone, half buried beneath the ruins, metallic silver hair tangled and matted in the scorched rubble, her twilight-hued skin torn and bloodied from brutal wounds, and her eyes the color of a dying sunset, slowly opened, staring straight at Ethan. No hatred, no fear. Only the hollow gaze of someone who had already accepted death. She whispered, her voice slipping between the flowing sweetness of the Orion tongue and the jagged edge of a breaking blade. Earthborn, don't waste your strength. I am already dead. Ethan's bioscan confirmed it. Her spine nearly shattered, mobility impossible. The wounds had spread through her entire nervous system. By Orion combat regulations, this was the kind of wounded soldier that had to be left behind. The rules of war were simple. If you can no longer fight, you're just a burden. Ethan clenched his fist. Logic screamed inside his head. Leave. You owe this creature nothing. Stay, and both of you will die. But there was something within him, something humanity had carried throughout its long history of survival. Something no tactical manual from any other species in the galaxy could explain. Compassion. That stubborn, reckless thing. That instinct of a human being who once stood in the darkness and declared, "I don't leave anyone behind." He knelt down, placed his hand on the cracked armor of the Elyrian warrior, and gave a faint smile, weary but unbreakable. You're wrong. I'm not an ordinary Earthborn. I am Ethan Ward. Marine, Special Response Unit, the last one left. And I am getting you out of this damn place. Somewhere, deep within those dark sunset eyes, a light appeared. Faint, fragile, but real. For the first time, it shone. The heart of a warrior born on a death world doesn't beat faster because of fear. It only beats faster when standing before an impossible choice. Ethan Ward, the last surviving Marine of the Heratos IV battlefield, was facing such a choice now. One man, one creature not of his kind, a female warrior of the Elyrian race, one of the proudest civilizations in the Orion galaxy, lay motionless beneath the scorched rubble. Her name was Lyara Velis, a legend of war, a warrior princess now fallen, her spine nearly crushed beyond repair. Silver Elyrian blood still trickled beneath the red dust and shattered stone. If he were to follow every rule of war, Ethan should leave her behind. He knew that. The military protocol flashed across his HUD in cold, merciless words. Status, casualty, non-extractable, leave. Lyara spoke softly, the voice of one already prepared for death. Leave me, Earthborn. You'll die if you take me with you. Ethan looked at her, looked into those eyes that no longer held hope, looked into a gaze he had seen far too many times, in the eyes of his own fallen comrades. And then he laughed. A dry, weary laugh, but one that dared to challenge the entire universe. You don't understand, Princess. The Orion have rules of war. The Elyrians have their pride. But we Earthborn, we only have foolish heads and hearts that don't know how to fear death. He activated the power assist frame in his armor, locked his plasma rifle onto his back, and stepped forward, kneeling beside Lyara. One hand slid carefully beneath her back, as gently as possible. The other wrapped part of her tattered Elyrian armor, as if cradling a fragile piece of shattered porcelain. She looked at him, and for the first time those fading eyes held an unfamiliar emotion. Stunned and hurting. Are you truly going to do this? Ethan tightened the straps around her. His voice was no longer that of a Marine commander. It was the voice of a man who had accepted every price, just to do one thing right. I don't leave anyone behind. Far away, his combat radar pulsed relentlessly. The Kolvar were moving on the insectoid war species. They smelled blood. They followed biosignals. They were coming. How long did he have? 10 minutes? 5? No one knew. But Ethan Ward knew one thing. If he was to die here, in the war-scarred hell of Heratos IV, he would die as a human, a true human. He leaned down, his voice close beside Lyara's ear. If we die, then we die together. But if we live, I'll drag you out of this hell no matter what it takes. A faint smile crossed the pale face of the Elyrian girl. Fragile, but more beautiful than any gleaming steel on this battlefield. You really are a madman. Ethan smirked. Thank you for the compliment. Heratos IV was silent, like a grave. The wind swept through the ruins of a command station, once the pride of Orion, now reduced to nothing but twisted scrap metal, reeking of ash and dried blood. Ethan Ward knelt down, adjusting Lyara Velis' position on his back. She was light, terrifyingly light, as if whatever life remained in this body was hanging by the thinnest thread. The oxygen mask over Lyara's face released short, shallow breaths, each inhale like a knife tearing through her lungs. "Hold on," he whispered. Lyara shifted slightly. Her faint voice rose behind his neck. "You really are insane." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "Yeah, that's what Earthborn are like. Don't expect me to act rational." He tightened the straps, activated the power assist exoskeleton at full capacity. Steel muscles tensed beneath his torn armor. The target? An old supply zone, 3 kilometers ahead. If anything remained, if luck was on their side, if they lived long enough to reach it. The radar on his HUD flashed. Movement. Fast. Very fast. The Kolvar swarm was moving, gliding through the broken buildings like a flock of vultures. Smelling blood. Sensing prey that still breathed. They weren't in a rush. They liked to hunt slowly, to tear their prey apart piece by piece. Ethan clenched his teeth, hurling himself through the collapsed corridors. His combat boots struck shattered steel and broken stone. Each step echoed across the ruins. He couldn't go invisible. He couldn't hide his trail. He couldn't disappear. A soldier carrying a crippled warrior through a steel hell. This wasn't a mission, this was a declaration. "I'm still alive, and I don't leave anyone behind." "Ethan." Lyara's fragile voice reached him. She leaned closer to his ear. "There were many, so many Orion warriors and who died on this planet." He didn't look back. "I know." She hesitated, as if confessing something forbidden. "But no one has ever carried someone like me, a cripple, off a battlefield." Ethan laughed, this time without weariness. It was the laugh of a man ready to crush every rule in the galaxy beneath his boots. "Well, then you've met the wrong person today, Princess. I'm not an Orion warrior. I'm human. And on Earth, we don't have a culture of leaving our people behind." Behind them, the Kolvar's screeches echoed. Ahead, Heratos IV opened its blood-stained paths. There was no way back, no room for mistakes, only 2 survivors. A madman carrying a fallen legend. Walking through hell, with nothing left but sheer will. And the stubbornness that only a human could have. Night fell on Heratos IV. Cold. So cold that even Titan steel armor could no longer block the wind. Ethan Ward had found a temporary shelter, the remnants of an old supply station. Bombed and collapsed weeks ago. He set Lyara Velis down against a twisted wall of steel, just enough cover to shield her from the hunting Kolvar swarm. No fire, no light, only darkness and the lingering scent of blood on their armor. He sat down across from her. Neither of them spoke. For a very long time. Only the wind whispered. Only the metallic bones of this dead planet creaked with heavy, ghostly echoes. Ethan looked at the woman before him. Lyara Velis, warrior princess of the Elyrian race. Once the leader of 3 legendary campaigns on the Orion front. Once praised as the silver blade of the southern stars. Now she sat there, broken, fragile, and utterly alone. Just like him. No more medals, no more uniforms, no army left standing behind them. Only 2 survivors. and two long shadows cast across the cold, rusted walls. It was Lyara who broke the silence first, her voice hoarse and worn. "I hate this place." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I thought you hated me." And for the first time, he heard a faint laugh, no strength behind it. But it was real. "Hate you, but respect you. You're the first human foolish enough to carry me across a battlefield of death." He gave a dry chuckle. "Maybe I'm just stupid." She looked at him for a long time, then shook her head. "No, it's because you are still human." They sat there, no longer enemies, no longer warriors, just people, fighting against loneliness. Ethan unhooked his last reserve water flask and offered it to her. Lyara stared at it, hesitating. In Orion culture, no one gave water to someone who was about to die. But this wasn't Orion. This was Heratos IV, and this was Earth in the form of a marine soldier. She took it, sipped a small amount. The water dwindled away, but the space between them began to filled with stories no one had the chance to tell. Ethan looked at her, spoke very softly. "I used to ask myself how humanity survived so long in this cold universe. Now I understand. Because we share water. Because we share life with others. Even when we have nothing left for ourselves." The night on Heratos IV remained cold, but in this absolute darkness, a small flame had been kindled, not from a plasma rifle, but from two people, two final survivors, sitting across from each other, no longer fearing death. Only fearing one thing, to die and be forgotten. Heratos IV never let anyone sleep for long. The radar on Ethan Ward's HUD flared bright with warnings. The Kolvar swarm had found their trail. They were closing in, fast, countless, merciless like a storm of living metal. Ethan shot up to his feet. Lyara opened her eyes, her body nearly incapable of battle. But those eyes, the eyes of an Orion warrior, had never lost their sharpness. "They're coming," she said. He nodded, leaning down, checking the makeshift harness that secured her to his back. "I'm getting you out of here. Then go do your insane thing, Marine. No one's going to stop you now." The Kolvar's screeches echoed behind them. Ethan ran. The whole world shrank to a single thing: survival. Each of his steps shattered the broken steel beneath him. His muscles screamed in strain. The power assist frame in his armor howled under overload. But he kept running. Behind him, the Kolvar swarm poured through every crevice, like insects from hell, clinging to the scent of blood and living sweat. He fired, spinning. He hurled an EMP grenade behind him. Boom! Part of the Kolvar pack exploded, flung apart in twisted shards of carapace. But it wasn't over. They were smarter than that. They scattered, moving in small hunting groups, tightening the net around the narrow corridors. Lyara whispered in his ear, "They're hunting in a triangular encirclement. Kolvar's signature pattern. The left flank is bait." Ethan squinted. "Good. You're smart, Princess." He slammed to a stop, throwing himself to the right, toward what seemed like empty space. A Kolvar Alpha lunged out, It saw like claws plunging straight down where he'd been moments ago. He fired 3 shots, rapid, precise, straight into the creature's neck joint. Its head exploded. The rest of its body collapsed, blue blood splattering everywhere. Lyara gripped his shoulder slightly, her voice a faint laugh. Not bad for an Earthborn. He gave a sharp grin. Save the compliments until we're out of here. Flirting while running isn't exactly my style. But they both knew it wouldn't be that easy. More than 2 kilometers still stood between them and the old transport station. Countless Kolvar were yet to reveal themselves. But Ethan Ward knew one thing clearer than anything else. Today, he wasn't fighting alone. On his back was a warrior princess of the Elyrian race, her sunset-darkened eyes now shining for the first time because of a human. And for the first time, on the battlefield of Heratos IV, a Marine and an Elyrian had begun to fight as a true team. Heratos IV. After all the chaos and fire, at last there was silence. Ethan Ward stopped, his breath heavy, like rusted iron hammering within his armor, heart pounding like war drums inside the hollow shell. Before him, an impossible structure rose amidst the scorched ruins of this dead world. Not a military outpost, not an Orion shelter, not an Alliance base, but something else. It looked like a temple, a massive structure of ancient metallic silver. Its spiraling carving shimmered faintly, like the slow breathing of some sleeping, living being. The air here felt different. Still, cold but not frightening. On the contrary, it made him slow his steps, made him hold his breath, made him lower his head. Along the stone walls, ancient Elyrian symbols sprawled. A language long lost, spoken only in myths, the sanctuary of life, the domain of resurrection, forbidden technology, a place reserved only for dying Elyrian warriors, those chosen or forsaken by their gods. On his back, Lyara Velis trembled. Her voice, for the first time, was filled with emotion, not pride, not coldness, but reverence. This is a place not even every Elyrian is allowed to enter. Ethan didn't stop. He looked toward the half-open doorway, a gentle light spilling out, touching his blood-stained, dust-covered skin. But today, he whispered, I have no other choice. He stepped inside. That place was as silent as the minds of those who had fallen there. At the center of the chamber stood the life pillar, a living crystal mass, glowing like condensed cosmic blood, floating motionless in the stillness of space. Every heartbeat from Ethan, every breath from Lyara, seemed drawn into that ancient flow. Lyara whispered Kun as though apologizing to all her ancestors. You don't understand, Earthborn. To step into this place is to step into an irreversible fate. It doesn't just revive the body, it binds the soul. Ethan turned and looking straight into her twilight-colored eyes and smiled. I don't need to understand. I only know I'm not leaving you behind. He placed her down beside the life pillar, its gentle light unfurled, as if touching these two strangers, accepting them, guiding them. Envy, in that moment, Heratos IV, the dead world, no longer existed within Ethan Ward's awareness. There was only this place, a space that did not belong to humankind. Every wall and every symbol and every stream of moving light around him felt like something older than language, but whispering directly to his soul. Lyara Velis lay motionless beside the life pillar, her breath fading, her body unraveling, teetering on the razor-thin edge of life and death. She knew well, this was not a place for Earthborn, nor was it a place for Elyrians who had failed. To step into the sanctuary of life was to accept a single truth. If you survived, you would no longer be who you were yesterday. If you failed, you would vanish forever, dissolved into the memory of this planet. Ethan, Lyara whispered, her voice fractured like the final breath of the wind. You don't have to do this. He knelt beside her, removed his helmet, letting his deep blue eyes shine amidst the silver-lit chamber. He spoke slowly, as if swearing an oath before the entire universe. I don't care if this is Elyrian technology. I don't care if this is a forbidden ritual. I only know, if there's even a 1 in a million chance to save you, I will take it. Because I am human. Lyara looked at him, and for the first time marveled in those twilight-colored eyes. There was no longer the gaze of a warrior, but the gaze of a woman, standing before something no one dared to believe, a human, choosing to stay, choosing to sacrifice, choosing to bond, not for honor, not for duty, but for the heart. The life pillar began to glow brighter. Rings of energy floated, swirling slowly around their bodies. The ancient Elyrian recognition system swept through their DNA, through their memories, through their will. And then it paused. It did not reject them, nor did it accept them immediately. It asked, a question unspoken yet echoing within both their minds. Do you truly wish to bind your fate? Ethan took Lyara's hand, that hand, cold, trembling, yet still alive. He smiled gently, softly, but real. I'm not just saving you. I'm saving the part of my soul that's already bound itself to you. The life pillar blazed with brilliant light. A stream of pure white energy engulfed them both, like a current of living water flowing across their skin, through their hearts, through their memory, pulling their souls together into a single living thread. Ethan's biomonitor alarms flared wildly. His heartbeat shattered every rule of safety protocol. The Elyrian energy current threaded into his DNA, wrapped around every strand of human memory, altering them, reshaping them. Both of them collapsed, but no longer felt like they were falling. It felt like flying, like drifting, like merging. Within the sanctuary of life, built by the most alien civilization imaginable, a human and an Elyrian princess had stepped into a sacred covenant, eternal, irreversible, but no one ever wanted to reverse it. The light of the life pillar slowly faded. Silence returned to the chamber, broken only by the ragged breaths of two souls who had crossed the limits of their species. But Ethan Ward knew one thing for certain. In this moment, he was no longer the pure human he had once been. His fists clenched, Streams of Elyrian silver energy pulsed along his veins, like a living neural system newly etched into his body. Every sense in him had awakened. Every sound, no matter how small or muck, struck his mind like lightning. He could hear the blood flowing in Lyara Velis's body, her fragile breathing, but warmer now, stronger. Life had returned. No longer the Elyrian she was, no longer the human he was. They were something else. A fusion of survival and discipline, of instinct and reason, of softness and brutality. Ethan rose slowly. Lyara had opened her eyes. Those sunset-colored eyes, now veiled in a strange silver glow, radiating an aura no language could describe. That gaze was like seeing the entire battlefield within her mind, as if she had seen death and chosen never to bow. "I can feel you," Lyara spoke, like wind weaving through his heart. Ethan smiled. "So can I." Outside the howls of the Kolvar echoed once more. No commands were needed, no words, no hesitation. The last two survivors stood side by side and moved as one single body. Ethan raised his plasma rifle. But this time, it was not just a weapon. He could sense the movements of his enemies, not only through biosignals, but through the instinctual connection flowing from Lyara. Lyara raised her hand. The shattered Elyrian armor fragments around them quivered, then fused together, forming a razor-sharp energy blade. Not Orion technology, not Earth technology, but a fusion of pure survival instinct. The Kolvar swarm stormed in, but they no longer faced a wounded Earthborn warrior, nor a crippled Elyrian princess. They faced something no species in the galaxy had ever seen. A human carrying the terrifying adaptability of his kind, and an Elyrian wielding the ancient regenerative power of a war-born civilization. Ethan's plasma rifle roared. Not a single shot missed. His rounds pierced through Kolvar armor as if already knowing their weakest points. Lyara's silver blade sliced through the air, severing necks, limbs, and those grotesque, unblinking eyes. Kolvar blood sprayed everywhere. But neither of them stopped. No thought, no hesitation. The battlefield fell silent. The Kolvar swarm froze. They understood. What stood before them was no longer prey, but the new hunters. A legend yet to be written into Orion history. A terror yet to be whispered among the Kolvar. Ethan tilted his head toward Lyara and spoke not with words, but with the bond now carved into their very blood. "What are we?" Lyara tightened her grip on her silver blade, her sunset eyes burning with fire. "We are those who cannot be left behind." And from that night on, in every legend passed down among both Orion and Kolvar, there would always be one warning. If amidst the ruins of war, you see a human carrying an Elyrian princess on his back, run, run, or die. Heratos IV. Once again returned to silence. But this was no longer the silence of death, no longer the silence of the abandoned. It was a different silence, the silence of those who had just reclaimed life. Ethan Ward knelt amidst the wreckage, surrounded by Kolvar corpses and scorched fragments of armor. Sweat poured down his face, mixed with ash and blood. Behind him, Lyara Velis slowly stepped forward. She no longer dragged a crippled body behind her. Every step now was steadier, every breath fuller. But there was something in her eyes, something that told Ethan this change was far greater than any wound or recovery. They found a temporarily safe area, a corner of an old ruined shelter, enough to breathe, enough to sit down, and enough to feel like themselves again. Ethan removed his gloves, reached out, placing a hand on the Elyrian armor covering Lyara's arm. "Hey," he spoke quietly. "You okay?" Lyara remained silent for a long time. Her sunset eyes stared into the dark void far beyond. Then she turned back, and in her eyes, there was no longer the cold gaze of a warrior princess, nor the eyes of a soldier who had once accepted death, but the gaze of a woman hiding something immense within her. "Ethan." Her voice spun low, hoarse, almost trembling. "There's something I need to tell you." He frowned. "What is it?" She slowly raised her hand, resting it gently on her stomach, and in that moment, the bond between them, the sacred covenant of life, flared once more. No words were needed, no biological scanner, no device. Ethan felt it instantly, a heartbeat, faint, fragile, but more alive than anything he had ever known. "I am carrying within me a new life," Lyara spoke slowly, as one stepping across the boundary of fate. "A child. Ours." Ethan fell silent, not from fear, not from shock, but because the feeling rising in his chest right now was stronger than any battle, greater than any title, beyond any survival tactic. It was life, a seed of life, born amidst the deadliest ruins of the universe. He reached out, touching Liara's hand. Together, Malna, they placed their hands over where this new heart had begun to beat, so faint, so fragile, yet so stubbornly alive, just like them. Ethan smiled, a quiet smile he had never known in all his years of war. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. "I came here to fight, and I'm ending up about to be a father." Lyara looked at him, her eyes softer than any light Heratos IV had ever seen. "You saved me from death, and I carry within me the future of both our worlds. In a place where only death was meant to reign, they had found something stronger than death itself. Stronger than guns. Stronger than predators. It was life. The life of the very first child, born of Earth's blood and Elyrian silver. Heratos IV would never let life exist for long. Only hours after discovering the most miraculous thing in his life, Ethan Ward realized the cruelest truth of the universe. The Kolvar never give up. They do not understand life. They only understand the predator's instinct. They had found two survivors, and they were coming, like the final nightmare, like a black tide sweeping everything away. Ethan's HUD radar blazed red. The signals were packed, solid, suffocating. He tightened his armor straps, his blue eyes colder than any ice in the galaxy. There was no way back, no negotiation, nothing left to lose, except one thing, one single thing. He turned to Lyara Velis. She stood there, one hand gripping her silver-bladed sword, the other resting over her stomach, where the fragile seed of life had begun to grow. Ethan roared, like a beast cornered at its final limit. "You want to kill me?" Fine, but not a single one of you will lay a claw on my family. The Kolvar's howls echoed from all directions. They surged from every shadow, claws, teeth, armored bodies glowing with biological rage. But this time, they had found the wrong enemies. Ethan activated full combat mode. Muscles swelled beneath his steel armor, Elyrian energy flowing through his blood, merging with every breath. His plasma rifle roared, every shot a curse of death. The Kolvar were shredded before they could even breach his line of defense. Beside him, Lyara Velis moved like a living silver blade. Every motion was precise. Every strike was pure instinct, the instinct of absolute protection. No longer the cold Elyrian, no longer the princess of a distant civilization. She was a mother. She was the mother of the first child born between two worlds, and that alone made her the most dangerous warrior in the universe. Two people, one battlefield. A voice, low and steady, echoed through the link between their minds. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. Lyara? If today we have to die. She smiled faintly, her sunset eyes shining brighter than ever before. Then I will die with you. But before that, both of them on together. They'll have to step over our corpses first. And amidst the fire-scorched Heratos IV, the final battle erupted. Not for territory, not for war, not for orders or honor, but for one thing only: family. The wind still swept across the ruins of Heratos IV, but it was no longer the cold wind of death, no longer the wind of collapse. It was the wind of those who stood up amidst the ashes. Ethan Ward stood on the edge of a jagged cliff. Before him, the final path leading toward the old transport base of the Orion Alliance. Far beyond, the Kolvar swarm still hunted them. Death still waited in every shadow. The inferno of this dead planet had never truly gone out. But Ethan no longer feared. He had passed through the worst. He had found what mattered most in his life. Behind him, Lyara Velis sat, her back resting against a stone wall, her hand gently placed over her stomach, where a heartbeat so small yet so real was growing stronger with every passing hour. A child, not of Orion, not fully human, but the very embodiment of two bloodlines once thought impossible to unite, a child born amidst war. Amidst blood and ashes, amidst loss and hope. Ethan turned back. He knelt before Lyara, not as a soldier, but as a man, standing before his family. "We won't run forever," he said. "I know." Lyara nodded, her voice deeper now, but strangely calm. "War will never let us go. But we are no longer the ones who run." Ethan smiled, a smile carved into the very bones of humanity. "Exactly. We are the ones who were left behind. The ones who should have died long ago. But because of that," he clenched his fists, staring out at the fire-red horizon, "we are the only ones who have the right to rewrite this legend." Lyara looked at him, her sunset eyes burning with a light no civilization in the universe had ever known. It was the light of humankind, the light of an instinct that existed only in those willing to die for what they love. The wind swept across Heratos IV again, carrying the chill of rusted steel, carrying the scent of ash. But now, It also carried the quiet whisper of distant stars. There are those who chose not to bow, who refused to vanish into the dark, but stood amidst war and rewrote the legend of humanity with their own blood and their unbreakable hearts. Heratos IV roared. The entire planet seemed ready to bury the last two fragile lives beneath the storm of steel and claws unleashed by the Kolvar swarm. Never before had the Kolvar come in such numbers. Wave after wave, pouring in like an endless black ocean. They shrieked, they bared their claws, they came to end everything. But Ethan Ward did not retreat. He stood amidst the charred ruins, one hand gripping the weight of his plasma rifle, a weapon long baptized in blood and fire. And in his other hand, he held Lyara Velis, the woman who was no longer a princess of Elyria, but the only heart he had left to protect. Behind them, a child not yet born, but stronger than those who had lived for 1,000 years. Ethan tilted his head slightly. Lyara was already standing beside him, those sunset-colored eyes now burning with a fire nothing could extinguish. "Lyara," he whispered, but each word hammered into the heart of them both. "We clear this place, and we go home together." She didn't smile. She only nodded. "Yes, I'm done running. I'll make them understand. This is no longer their hunting ground." And then they charged into their final battle. Ethan's plasma rifle roared, every shot a scythe of death. No Kolvar could reach them. Lyara moved through the battlefield like a living silver blade. Every strike, every motion was absolute perfection. Carved deep within the DNA of both humankind and Elyria. They no longer needed to look at each other. No commands, no signals. Their bond had long transcended language. An attacker from the left, just a tilt of Ethan's shoulder, the plasma round already drilling through its skull. A swarm closing from behind, just a turn of Lyara's body, her silver blade spinning into a bloody arc. The Kolvar began to falter. They didn't understand. They had never faced something like this. Not a human, not an Elyrian, not survivors clinging to life, but a new symbol, a new definition of power, a being carrying the reckless, unyielding instinct of humankind that refused to surrender. A warrior wielding the wisdom and legacy of Elyria that never knew retreat. And amidst that blood-soaked nightmare, Ethan and Lyara had turned themselves into living legends. Every strike, every shot, every step was a singular declaration. We are the ones who were left behind. But we are the last ones who will remain standing. The Kolvar began to retreat. They understood. They accepted. The defeated today were them. Ethan gasped for breath. Blood traced down his battered armor. His eyes remained cold, but blazed like the last star surviving in a blackened sky. He turned to Lyara, his voice low, hoarse, filled with pride. "You see now. This is the strength of humankind." Lyara smiled, the most beautiful smile Heratos IV had ever seen. "No, Ethan Ward. This is the strength of family." Heratos IV, silent. For the first time, after everything, this dead planet was truly silent. No more gunfire, no more screams from the Kolvar, no more shadows of predators lurking, only life remained. Ethan Ward walked slowly through the ruins. The sky above had turned to a soft silver gray, no longer blazing red, no longer ash-choked, just the sky. Empty, like a blank page, a new chapter, yet to be written. He knelt down beside Lyara Velis. She sat against a large stone, both hands resting over her stomach, where the most important thing in their world was beginning to form. A life, a child, a living legend, unlike anything in Orion's history. Ethan sat down beside her. He said nothing. He simply placed his hand over Lyara's stomach, where that tiny heartbeat echoed beneath skin and scars, through every wound they carried. Lyara looked at him, those silver-tinged sunset eyes, gentler than any language he had ever heard on Earth. Ethan. We survived, he smiled. The rough hands of a Marine once meant for killing, now trembled for something so small, so fragile, but stronger than any tactic, any weapon, any law of war. No, he replied softly. We didn't just survive. He looked out at the silver-gray horizon. We rewrote the legend. Lyara laughed quietly, one like wind brushing across the peaks of Orion's mountains. This child, she whispered. It will be the bridge between two worlds. Proof that humans and Elyrians can stand together. In the distance, the final rescue signals from the Orion Alliance had appeared. Ships slowly approached Heratos IV. Alien warriors had received the final combat recording of Ethan Ward and Lyara Velis. A record they could hardly believe. An Earth-born soldier, an Elyrian princess. An impossible battle, a life never before seen in the history of Orion. And when they found Ethan and Lyara amidst the ruins, they didn't just find two survivors, they saw the future. A future with no borders between the stars. A future without prejudice between species. A future written in blood, in tears, and in the unshakable faith in life itself. Heratos IV had once been the graveyard of 1,000,000 dreams. But in this very place, a child had been born, carrying Earth's blood, Elyrian silver, and the unbreakable heart of humankind. And when the history of Orion was written anew, there would always be one sentence carved into stone, into steel, into the bones of every civilization. There are those who were born to survive. But there are those who were born to carry on the story of those who never bowed. There are battles in life where we don't get to choose the circumstances, we don't get to choose the enemy, we don't get to choose the weapons or the advantage. But we always get to choose who we will become on that battlefield. The story of Ethan Ward and Lyara Velis on the dead world of Heratos IV is not just a sci-fi tale of war and survival. It is proof of something humanity has done for thousands of years, even when considered the weakest species in the universe. It is the ability to stand up amidst ruin. It is the courage to protect what is most fragile, when everything around us screams to give up. It is the belief that the most beautiful, the strongest thing, does not lie in technology or weaponry. It lies in life, in family, in those small human feelings no logic of war can ever explain. The greatest lesson of this story is simple. Humans are not great because they are immortal. Humans are great because they know they will die, but still choose to love, to live, and to leave behind something that matters. So, if today you are living through your own Heratos IV, surrounded by failure, loss, and pain, remember this. You don't have to be the strongest. You only have to be the one who does not give up. And sometimes, just a simple act, a quiet embrace, a word of protection, an act of perseverance, is enough to write a new legend. Your legend.